Good.
Right, it is 1 o'clock and we're going to start. So thank you all so much for coming. I'm hoping that our other folks will be joining us shortly. We have, again, we're so fortunate to have Cody LaPlante today.
Yeah.
He's going to do a little bit of a deeper dive into screen readers. We are recording, and so hello, good afternoon. We are recording just so we have it. And so just keep that in mind as you're sharing. I will be departing at 2 for another meeting, but Cody will be here with us. He is the host. And Cody, I'll let you take it away. Thank you so much.
Yeah. Okay, cool. So I was telling Jennifer before everybody popped in here that it's really great when we have 2 sessions, because I for those of you who are in the last one, I know we kind of went over all those foundations. And today we're going to do a little bit of a review of that, but I also want to get really a deep dive into what your concerns are so that we can start to do some activities that are really tailored to your guys' needs and to your students' needs. So I guess I want to first start by asking you all what your concerns, what your questions are, what are the things that you're struggling with, kind of what I say is your pain points. What are your pain points when it comes to screen readers? And I just kind of want to open the floor to the 4 of you guys to tell me kind of what you're looking for or the questions that you have. Yeah, so what do you all think?
Okay, well, when Lindy gets here, I know she was having some struggles with some of the stuff after last time, and she may have some specific questions. She texted and said she's going to be here in a meeting in a minute. Her and Wendy.
Okay.
Here she comes.
There she is.
So she might want to go first.
Yeah.
But just in the back of your mind or for later or whatever, there's so many of the things that the kids are trying to do, like they're doing something and then we need to drag and drop, or we need to, there's some of those, all the extra things that everybody is, like, I think we have Edpuzzle pretty well figured out, but there's just so many different other things. Like now we're putting up Kahoots, and now we're doing, what's it called, Pear Deck, and now we're doing this. And so some of those things are the things then every single time the teacher is great. It's great for the gen ed sighted kids, because like, you made learning fun, awesome. But in the meantime, it creates all these other problems for us, because we're always like, how do we do that? How do we do that? We're always, one of the things I say with technology, sadly, and I don't mean to be negative, but when someone says like they're on the ball, I'm always like, we're running behind the ball as fast as we can,
Yeah. That's a really great point. I think, especially as we've gotten into virtual learning, the teachers are like, okay, now we have to use all of this technology and we have to make the learning really engaging. And for us with students with visual impairments, that really is hard, because honestly, one of the things that I tell teachers is the more boring the lesson, usually the more accessible it is, which is unfortunate for us, right? We don't want a boring lesson, but anything that involves like text, perfect, right? Like it's completely accessible. But once you get into those Kahoots and it gets really, really difficult to even understand, is this something that the student can do? Or is it something and needs the instruction to do? Or is it something that the student just is impossible to do with a screen reader, right? And that's a really good point. So with that, I'm writing this stuff down. With that, I'm going to give you some strategies today to determine which one it is, right? Unfortunately, and I'll say this beforehand, unfortunately, it takes a little bit of analysis beforehand. And the caveat here is, if the teacher throws something out in the middle of class, we don't have any, if we haven't analyzed it yet, you're like, okay, well, like that's, so it's one of those things that we, exactly like you said, is you're going to be running behind the ball a little bit. But even if they give you a couple hours notice, we can do some activities for you to pull up your computer, turn on the screen reader, and at least get an idea of how accessible it is. But it is kind of always going to be, and I think one of the things to know is that to let the teachers know, okay, the more engaging you make this, that's fine, but just know that my student, your student, the student with a visual impairment is not going to necessarily have access like that, you know, which is hard, but that's a really great concern.
Yeah. And it's tough because with the elementary kids, they want to make it super fun, even though there's only 30 kids, but they're young and they are play-based learning. Then you get to the high school and they had to figure it out for 150 kids. And then it's like, yes, they care about our kid, but they care and try to make learning interesting for the other 149 of their students as well. So it's kind of more in that. Anyway, that was just something, if you know any tricks about that. I know there's a drag and drop. I managed it like 2 years ago, but I can't remember how. But anyway, those are a couple of my things. But Lindy, I told him you had some concerns because he was asking about questions and what worked and what didn't work and what we had questions on. So if you wanted to ask some of your things that worked or didn't work with Leo.
This is my issue, Robin, and this is why I was hoping we could meet on Thursday. I need to ask the question in the heat of the moment, so to speak. I can't extrapolate out and ask. It's just too much. And it's been 2 weeks since I messed with it. And because it didn't work, I haven't gotten back to it. So that's the story.
Lindy, let me ask you some more questions. Is it that you try to do something and when you try to do it, it didn't work? Yeah. Okay.
And when that happens, I don't want to lose any more hair or get more gray too quick. And so I just like put up my hands. I do super great sitting next to somebody. I'm sorry, one second. Hi. You can. Do you want to sit in here? Jody's having trouble. Just right there. So she might.
Hi, Jody. Okay, cool. Yeah, that can be something that we go over as well, is troubleshooting, because there's a couple of things that you can do that you can run through this set of steps that usually 80% of the time it's the same problems. So we can go over that as well.
Okay.
Cool.
Thank you.
Yeah. Anything else? What else are your pain points? What are some of the things that you want to make sure that we cover today?
You're asking everybody?
Yeah, everybody. Anything that comes to mind. Okay. Well, if something comes up, if we start going and you guys are like, and somebody's like, oh, I had this problem and I forgot to say, feel free to stop me, because I am totally fine with going off on a tangent, because usually tangents are more focused to your guys' needs than what I have in the PowerPoint anyway. So feel free to stop me. Okay. So today what we're going to do is I'm going to start sharing. Today what we're going to do is we're going to start just by reviewing what we went over last time. And I'm going to do a little bit more of demonstration of some of that stuff, so you can really see the stuff in action. Now, to your guys' point, really remember that the first part of this and what we did last time, these are just building blocks of like the foundational skills, right? So the first hour, give or take, depending on how long it takes, is going to be making sure that we understand those foundational skills. And then once we review that, if we're all good, then we're going to move into the practical side. So taking those foundation blocks and trying to apply it to an actual situation where you're in a classroom. Okay. Now it's really important that we don't I think a lot of times when you go to a screen reader training, they jump right to that practical side. And a lot of times that's why it's really confusing. And that's why we try something and it doesn't work, because those foundation blocks for us and for our students have to be in place before we jump to that section. Okay. So remember last time, let me see if I can, there we go. I have JAWS on, so my key commands are a little messed up with the slide. So these are our learning objectives. Today, we're going to be reviewing method 1, method 2, and method 3. We'll go over those in a second. But we're also going to talk about how to justify why you select a particular method. Remember, those methods are those building blocks. We're going to start to talk about why we would select a building block. Why would we select a method to do something? And then we're also going to talk about navigation sequences. Remember, that's a set of steps, right? Where you might say, oh, the first step, we're going to use method 2. The second step, we're going to use method 1, right? Okay, so those are our learning objectives today. Here's our agenda. on average, around 60 minutes. First hour, we're going to talk about those 3 methods of navigation. We're going to review them. We're going to practice them. And I'm going to give you guys some resources, some more resources that you can use to help me practice those key commands. And then we're going to talk about why are we going to use each. And then the second hour, we're going to really dive into some of those problems that you're having. And building those navigation sequences, okay? Before we get started in that second hour, I'm gonna be asking for you guys to give me an example of something that you all struggle with. So for example, you were talking about like Edpuzzle, something like that, a learning app that you guys commonly use that we can kind of analyze and dig deeper on, okay? And I might ask somebody to share their screen as well, so that we can kind of put together a navigation sequence as a group. Okay. So just to review, because I don't want to start cold, remember, we're going to start with just our reviewing our element types, and we're going to do this somewhat quickly. But remember, there's 2 types of elements, right? There's information only. Those are those text elements. So that if you press enter on them, nothing happens, right? And we have our clickable objects. When you press enter on them, it causes something to happen. And we're just going to do this really quick. Same activity we did last time, just as a warm up, okay? And I have my Jamboard open here, and I just want to sort our elements into text elements and clickable objects. So if you guys want to get ready and just shout out an element and which category it goes in. So we got buttons, headings, links, text, graphics, and edit fields. All right, just shout out one of them and which category does it belong in: text elements, information only, or clickable objects.
Links clickable.
You got it. Yeah. Don't be afraid. If you get a wrong answer, it's totally okay, right? It's a learning experience.
Buttons clickable.
Buttons are clickable. Absolutely.
Headings text.
Headings are text elements. Remember, headings are titles and section titles.
Text.
Text is text. That makes sense, right? And last 2, graphics and edit fields, probably the hardest ones. What do you guys think?
Graphs, text.
Yep. Text elements. Why'd you say text elements, Is that
Because
Elizabeth?
last time I got it wrong, and this time
Yes, I love it. But what? But why? Why are graphics text elements? Tell me why text elements.
what was it? Because there's graphs that you can click, and there's text on the graphs, like
yes.
Something
Yes.
like that.
Yeah, you got it. Yeah. So
I just memorized.
No, that's perfect. That's perfect. That's why we're doing this, just to get you. You're like, oh yes, that was from last time, right? So remember those graphics, when the screen reader lands on them, there's that alt text, right?
Mm-hmm.
So the screen reader, they don't see a graphic, obviously. They just hear more text. That's why they're text elements. And then that's all it is information, right? Remember that graphics can also be links. So sometimes that trips people up. They're like, I've clicked on a graphic before. Yeah, because it's a graphic and it's a link, okay? Nice job, Elizabeth.
Thanks.
And then edit fields. What do we think?
Clickable.
Clickable. Remember, edit fields, you have to click on it in order to access it. Just like I clicked on this address bar, it's an edit field, right? Cool. All right, good job. So that is just a review of our elements. Remember, the internet is just a list of elements, right? So anytime that we do anything, right, when we break down the problems that you have later, we're going to be talking about what types of elements they are, right? And that's going to give us a clue as to how to access them. All right. The next thing, I'm not even going to start to present, is, but when do we use them? Oh, method 1, method 2, and method 3. So method 1, method 2, and method 3. First of all, I want to review each method, okay? Which one is, oh, the other thing that I want to show you. What I want you to do is, remember we have this Google Drive folder that we're sharing. What I'm going to do is I'm going to share this all with you, okay? I'm going to get the link. That looks good. Let me share it in the chat here. Oh, chat. Everyone, beautiful. So what I want you to do is I added this new folder in the folder. So if you look at my screen, there's this new cheat sheets section. We have a JAWS cheat sheet, an NVDA cheat sheet. There's one in Spanish, an NVDA in Spanish, and there's a Chromevox. We're using JAWS most of the time, right? So you can go to the JAWS cheat sheet and then open up this PDF, okay? And I want you to just keep this open on your screen, because for the next couple of minutes, I'm going to be asking for your help to get me these key commands. And this is going to help you a ton when we start talking about different methods. So I'm going to give you guys a couple of minutes. If you want me to do that again, I can. So what you're going to do is go to my JAWS going back and forth. So you're going to go to cheat sheets, JAWS cheat sheet. There's another JAWS cheat sheet folder, and then go to this red one, the PDF, and just have that open on your screen. All right. There's also a Word document one that you can have open as well. That's fine too. It has the same information. All right. But what we're going to do is we're going to start, I'm going to start demonstrating each method. First, we're going to talk about what is which method, and then we're going to start demonstrating each method. And I want you guys to tell me the key commands to use when. Okay. So it'll be a nice little review. So keep this open on your screen as we keep going. So with that, I want you to tell me which one is method 1, which one is method 2, and which one is method 3. If you go back to here, you can see them here. So I just want you to shout them out. All right. So which one is method 1?
Clickable object.
Clickable objects. So I'm going to take this clickable objects, put it under method 1. Yeah. What about method 2?
Quick keys.
You got it. Quick keys. Did everybody get access to that PDF? Is everybody able to see it?
No,
Yeah.
sorry. Did you want us, are we accessing that through that link you sent?
Yes, you got it. Yep. So what
Okay,
you would do,
all right.
yeah, what you would do is go to the chat. And you're going to click
Yeah.
on that link.
I
and
did
then-
that.
Mhm. And then
Sorry.
that's okay. That's okay. That's why we're doing this first activity. That's super easy. So make sure
But-
that everybody.
There's like 6 of them. Which one do there's lesson brainstorming.
So
Blah,
in the link, let me go back one more. Oh, just kidding. There we go. So you're gonna see this screen right here, right? You're gonna go to the cheat sheets folder. Okay.
Yeah.
And then JAWS cheat sheet. And then you should see basic internet navigation with JAWS.
Here. JAWS cheat sheet. Okay.
Okay. And then you should end up at this screen.
I don't know what this screen is.
It says basic internet navigation with JAWS.
Sorry. I'm still trying to click on the JAWS cheat sheet.
Oh, gotcha. Is it not working for you?
And it's a PDF. Okay.
It's a PDF. Yep.
Okay, we got it.
Cool. All right. Anybody else having issues? We all here? Okay, cool. So what I'm asking you is under that navigation on the left column, and I'm asking you which one is method 1, method 2, and method 3. So we said method 1 is clickable object. In the cheat sheet it says tab, but it's the same thing. Method 2, quick keys, and then what is method 3 is elements lists, right? Yeah, that's our last one. So just to get you guys used to using that cheat sheet, method 1, navigating by clickable object, method 2, quick keys, and method 3, elements list. Now that we're kind of all on the same page with the cheat sheet, what's going to happen is I'm going to start demonstrating each of these, but instead of doing the key commands, I'm going to ask you guys what the key commands are. So if we're using method 3, there's only one key command, right? It's going to be tab, right? If we're using method 2, I might ask you, okay, well, I'm going to go to the next unvisited link. What key should I press? And I'll ask you guys for those key commands. Okay. So just have this up. All right. So what we're going to do is I'm going to start Yeah. Yes. So I'm going to start just demonstrating each method. Okay. So remember, the first method that we're going to use is navigating by clickable object. All right. What's a clickable object? Just anybody shout it out. What would be a clickable object? Or you can give me type of clickable object.
Button.
Button, right? Link, anything I can click on. So if I'm going to navigate by clickable object,
full speech.
I have JAWS on now. All I'm going to do is navigate through my list of elements, but I'm only going to see the clickable objects. That means I'm not going to see any graphics. I'm not going to see any text. I'm not going to see any headings, right? I'm just going to see those links, buttons, edit fields, things like that. Okay. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to
New York Times space RSSTIS, enter. Google.com/search. New York Times dash Google search dash Google Chrome.
First article that I
blank.
see.
Sign.
Sure.
The New York Times dash breaking.
All right.
1 hour ago.
So if I was going to
10
navigate
regions, 22 Israel dash Palestinian.
There we go. If I was going to navigate by clickable object, right? What would I do? First of all, what's the key command? What would I do?
Tab.
Tab. I'm going to press tab, right? Now, the question here that I have for you guys is, what things on this page am I going to see? What things on this page am I going to see when I press tab?
Like the search, and then where it says like updates, what
Yep.
to know, death
Yep.
toll.
Absolutely. Will I see the article or the title of the article?
No.
No, absolutely not. So I'm just going to tab through.
Banner region. Search button. Skip to content same page link. Skip to site index same page link. New York Times logo. Subscribe.
Now,
New York Times logo. Click to visit the home page link.
Now, why is that New York Times logo a link? It looks like a graphic or a heading. Why is that clickable? Why did it show up in my clickable objects?
Because you can click it and it like takes you to the actual like New York
Yeah.
Times
Yeah,
home
yeah.
website or whatever.
Yeah, what other type of element is it? So it's a graphic, but it's also
A heading.
it's also a heading, but it's also it's a graphic, it's a heading, and it's a, because graphics, remember, if it's a graphic and a heading are both text elements, right? Why does it show up in my clickable objects?
It's a link.
It's a link, right? Remember, links are anything that takes us to another page. Now, this is really nitpicky, but it's very, very important to understand every single element and what it does, because then it's gonna, when we get into that, what do we do when we run into a problem? We really have to have that under our belt, is like, oh, it's a heading, it's a link, it's a graphic. Got it. Okay, I know what it does. Okay, now what happens if I want to move backwards by clickable object? What do I do?
Shift tab.
Shift tab. Add shift to my tab. Anytime I want to go backwards on the internet, I add shift.
Skip to search button.
Okay, so that one was pretty easy, right? Now we're going to move on to method 2. I'm going to collapse
A message
this
from the Times.
so that I can see, so we can see the whole page. So we're going to move on to method 2, right? So method 2, quick keys, right? Remember, that's navigating by a certain element type. So I'm going to think to myself, okay, what type of element do I want to navigate by? And then navigate through all of those element types, right? So in this example, I'll ask
Israel
you guys,
Palestinian banner region.
there we go. I'll ask you guys, in this example where I'm on a New York Times article, I probably want to read this article. What type of element do you think I should navigate by?
Heading.
Yeah, why heading?
It's going to have a title of the article.
You got it. Yeah. So every single, and I'll tell you guys, this is every single web page that's accessible is going to have a heading at level 1 at the top of the page. So that means if you want to read the page content, you probably are going to check for headings. So absolutely. Now, how do I check for headings using method 2? What's the key command?
H.
The Israeli-Palestinian conflict heading level 3.
Remember, that's a heading level 3. I said that the title of the article is heading level 1, so I know that I'm not there yet. So I'm going to try it again.
Live updates: Biden said to have taken firmer line on call with Netanyahu heading level 1.
All right, so there's our heading level 1, right? Now, what happens if I want to go back by heading? What do I do?
Shift H.
Shift and H. Add shift to my H.
The Israeli-Palestinian conflict heading level 3.
Right. Okay. So that's going by headings. Now, let's say I want to use a different example.
Control T.
We're going to use a different example. Do you guys use Google Classroom? Or
Yes.
do you guys? Yeah. Okay, cool. So let me go to Google Classroom.
C A S. Enter.
And we're going to use
Classroom,
this example a
help and
little
feedback
later. Sorry, I'm talking over Jaws. We're going to use this example a little later in our navigation sequence example. But I am going to do something that is pretty common, right? Let's say I'm on my Google Classroom page and I only have one class because it's a test account. But let's say I'm on my Google Classroom page and I have a ton of classes and I want to navigate by method 2. What element type would I be navigating by? What do you guys think?
Heading.
Why heading?
Just guessed.
That's a good guess, though. That's a good guess. I love it. I'm glad that you said just guess too, because honestly, that's kind of where we want to get is we're like, I don't know why it would be a heading, but I think it's going to be a heading. But yeah, no, that's a good guess. I can't see who answered that question, but whoever answered that question, could you tell me at least what you were trying to get to, what we're trying to get to?
The name of each class.
The name of each class, yeah. And I'm going to give you a hint. There's 2 types of that name of each class is 2 types of element types. Can somebody, doesn't have to be the same person, but can somebody tell me what types of elements you think that name of each class is going to be? So this IT, right? It's the name of the class. It's going to be a something and a something, right? We know it's going to be a heading. What else isn't going to be?
A link.
It's going to be a link. Yeah. Why?
It's going to take us somewhere.
It's going to take us somewhere. Now, why is it a heading?
Because it's the name of something.
It's the name of something. Absolutely. So there you go. Who is this that's answering? Let me, because I don't
Context
see everybody's
menu.
names.
I'm getting brave.
What is that? You're getting brave. Yeah. So who's answering?
Julie.
Julie. Okay, cool. Thanks, Julie. I appreciate you being brave. Yeah. So it's a name of something. It's going to take us somewhere. We know it's going to be a heading. We know it's going to be a link. So honestly, we can choose, do we want to navigate by headings or do we want to navigate by links? I always like navigating by headings because it eliminates a lot of stuff. So what am I going to do? Julie, I'll pick on you again. What am I going to do here?
You're going to type in H. I don't know.
You are absolutely right. Yeah, you are absolutely right.
H.
Oh, except I'm in the wrong mode.
Escape.
This is something that what's happened here is something that happens really commonly that I'll throw in. So remember how at the very beginning I said, you guys said that sometimes, was it Lindy? You said that that you tried it and it just wouldn't work. Like it didn't work the same way as when I was in the webinar, right? There's 80% of the time, it's the exact same thing. And I'm going to give you 2 things that you should try. The first thing is that sometimes our program focus gets messed up. So think about our program focus as on the computer, I have a couple of different programs open, right? I have the magnifier open, I have Zoom open, and I have JAWS, and I have Google Chrome. So I have 4 things open, right? And sometimes what happens is the computer thinks that I want to interact with another program that I don't want to interact. Right now, it looks like I'm on Google Chrome, right? But in actuality, it thinks that I'm on Zoom. And the reason I know that is because I move the mouse and I put my Zoom controls down here,
Google Chrome.
right? So now it's switching around my program focus. The way to do that, does anybody know the way to fix this? Just curious. Yeah, go ahead.
I was going to say, maybe escape or alt tab to shift through your different things.
Alt tab is the solution to this specific problem. So I'm going to hold down alt.
Leaving menus, magnifier.
And press tab. And every time I'm holding down alt right now, and every time that I press tab as I hold down alt, it goes to the next program.
Classes-Google Chrome. Classes dash.
So that's the first problem that fixed it. If it still doesn't work, then I would press escape. And what escape does is it puts you into a different mode.
Escape.
All right. So now if I press H,
Visited link I.T class.
80% of the time, if something's not working on the internet, or if something's not working in general, those are the two things I would try. Switch your program focus, hold down Alt, press Tab until you're on the right program, and then escape to get into the right mode. Okay.
So Cody, can
Vision has
we
joined
just
the
go
meeting.
over that a minute again?
Absolutely.
So if our students,
Case. Speech on demand.
because
Sorry, I'm just gonna
you
turn
know,
off speech.
most of us will just navigate with the mouse for our own personal use, right?
Yep.
So we can do that. We can even do Alt Tab, but then there, when our students do the Alt Tab,
Yeah,
did you say if they hold it down, it'll keep going through all of them?
they do. So what
And they
happens?
just let it go when they hear the one they want? They don't have to like
That's
Alt
exactly
Tab
right.
and then press Enter, or they just hold it?
They just hold it down. So I'll show you this again.
Full speech.
So what happens is, let me show you what I'm going to do is I'm going to hold down Alt with my thumb. And then when I press Tab, I'm still holding down Alt.
JAWS Home Manual. To move to an item, press the arrow keys.
I'm still holding down Alt, right? If I want to select JAWS, I just let Alt go,
JAWS Home Manual.
right? Does that make sense? If I want to go back to Google Chrome, I hold down Alt, press Tab.
Classes dash Google Chrome. To move to an item, press the arrow keys.
That's the one I want. I let it go.
Classes dash
You don't
Google
have to
Chrome
do
dash
any
info.
enter. You don't have to do any. It's just Alt and Tab. Now, a lot of the hard part about this is that some kids will go like this. Like if I have
Toolbar.
3 programs open right now and I want to get to magnifier, if you press Alt Tab and let it go.
JAWS Home Manual.
Okay, there's JAWS. And then Alt Tab again, it goes to the next program.
Classes dash Google Chrome. JAWS version 2.
Do you see that? I'm not even getting to magnifier. So just make sure that when you do this, you're holding down Alt the whole
Classes
time.
dash Google Chrome. Magnifier.
And then you can get to the one that you want. Does that make sense?
Yes, thank you.
Yeah, if you let go Alt every time, it's just going to go between 2 different programs. Yeah.
Okay.
JAWS classes dash Google Chrome.
So that's
Cody,
yeah.
this is how do you switch between the tabs that are open across the top of your screen where you have JAWS and the basic?
That's a great question. So like, for example, I have all those tabs up on the top of my Google Chrome. Is that what you're asking?
Yes.
Yeah. So that's actually Control Tab, right? So remember how we were talking about patterns? That's a huge pattern that I teach a lot is Alt Tab programs, Control Tab is like the next smallest thing. So it's Control Tab.
JAWS cheat sheet dash basic internet navigate presentation on
And
classes.
it works the same way where I'm holding down Control every time.
JAWS cheat sheet basic internet presentation on
Okay.
classes.
So
Does that make sense?
Cody,
Yeah.
that makes complete sense to me, except I want to make sure one of the things that I really loved about your class and your stuff is that you teach us all that correct terminology, because for some and vocabulary for some of
Yeah.
us that are not techie by nature.
Yeah.
Can you tell us the difference of Alt and Tab toggles between
Programs.
programs?
Or what I would say Windows, right?
Programs or Windows.
So for example, I'll give you a good example is if I make a new window of Google Chrome, right?
Control N.
Which is Control N. And let's say I go, I don't know, I do some Google search,
enter.
Right? Now, if I
4
do
regions, 5 DFKJ.
if I do Alt Tab, excuse me, if I do Alt Tab, it's going to put that into my Alt Tab rotation, right? So
Classes dash Google Chrome.
you see how
To
now
move to an item, press
there's another Google Chrome in my Alt Tab. So I would say it's going between windows, but usually that doesn't happen a lot. So for our beginners, I say programs because windows and tabs are kind of a hard concept if you can't see what's going on, right? So usually what I say for our beginners is I say it rotates between programs. And the way that I teach this is for a student with a visual impairment, let me see if I can put my hands up here so you can see, is I have them put their hands on top of each other, right? And I say your top hand is Google Chrome and your bottom hand is JAWS. And when you press Alt Tab, what's happening is it's switching, right? You're switching hands, okay? And that usually gets, they're like, okay, I got it. You can do the same thing with tabs, right? You're switching tabs, okay? But yeah, so I would say it's Windows, but for our beginners, it's a really hard concept to know what a window is and what a tab is and what a program is. It gets a little convoluted. So I usually just say programs. And if it comes up and they're more advanced, I'm like, okay, it's not programs, it's Windows. you know.
Okay, and then so that, and for the control tab is basically then just shifting between websites.
Exactly, between tabs. Yep, between tabs of the at the top. And I say tabs because it's important. It's important that, like we say, we don't want to like water it down too much, because what I want our students to be able to do is to be like, what was that command that they taught us? And then eventually be able to Google it, right? And if I say, okay, well, what you're doing is you're going between websites, they might be like, how do you go between
Jump to line dialogue.
How do you go between websites in Google Chrome?
Okay.
And that's going to
Okay,
come
so
up with something different, you know? And that's a reason why we want to make sure we have that correct terminology. So hopefully one day they're looking it up for themselves, you know, because we can't expect them to memorize everything that we ever teach them, right? We want to make sure that those concepts are in place, not necessarily the key commands.
Right. Well, yeah, and that's why I asked, because I want to make sure that we say that right. Because sometimes
Right.
I think even when we take classes, at least in our program, I don't want to speak
Yeah.
for everybody, sorry everybody, but you know, sometimes too, if you don't know, they'd be like, oh, and the system tray and the taskbar and the menus and the ribbon this and that, you know, it's like everybody needs to know those in order to know what that even means. We're like, I didn't even know how to get to the
I didn't even know what that was. Right. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Thank
that
you.
great example is like that ribbon in Word. And we always talk about the ribbon, and you talk to somebody that's not in our field and you're like, you know, the ribbon, and they're like, what's the ribbon? And you're like, you know, the thing at the top of the, you know,
Right.
you know,
Yeah.
and it is important to know some of that stuff, but all this terminology I know can be very overwhelming. So I'm glad that we took that time to do that, because honestly, that answers that question of what do you do if it's just not working, is those two things: program focus and escape to get into the right mode. Okay. Cool. So let's kind of come back to what we were doing before. We're going to use H, right, to get to our class name, right?
Wrapping to top. Google Classroom heading level 1.
There's our heading level 1.
Visited link I.T class options heading level 2 button menu collapse.
And notice how it said visited link IT, and then it's also a heading, right? So remember, that's two different things. So
enter.
Let's enter on that. Okay. So that's an example of method 2. And we'll come back to this example as well. Now, method 3, right, is our elements lists. This is the hardest, and the reason why it's method 1, method 2, and method 3 is it's in order of difficulty, right? So method 1, easy, tab, right? Students tab through everything all the time, right? Method 2, get a little bit more thinking under a belt, get a lot more key commands, right? And then method 3 is the hardest to grasp, right? But it's also the most powerful. And this is a good example to get here, right? This is something that I think a lot of students really struggle with, is they get to Google Classroom and they get into the class, but now what do we need to do, right? What would be the next step here? What do you guys think? So if I wanted to access an assignment in this Google Classroom, where would I go?
You'd want to go to the classwork link.
You got it, right? This is like the most common example where students get stuck. What do? They press tab, right? Okay, I'm going to tab through.
Announce something to your announcement option. Add class comment. Assignment : assignment op.
And now I'm going down my announcements. I'm getting further and further and further and further and further away from classwork, right? This is like the most common place where students get stuck, right? Like I would walk into, I had a consultation the other day, and I walked in and the student got to the classroom okay, and then they tabbed all the way through until they got to the right announcement. It's like, okay, well, this is why they're taking so long, right? Instead, we can use method 3, which is elements lists, right? And remember, elements lists brings up a big list of elements of a certain type, right? What do we predict the classwork link is? I just said it, but what type of element is it? It's a link, right? I just said it. I'm not going to make you guys answer a question I already answered. It's a link. So what element list should we open up? If you're looking at that cheat sheet, right? If we're looking over here,
space, speech on demand,
at this cheat sheet, which one of those should we probably open? What do we think?
Anybody?
That link?
Yeah, absolutely. The links list, right? So we're going to open our links list. Elizabeth, what was that key command?
Is key F7.
JAWS key F7. Remember,
Oh, yeah.
JAWS key is
Yeah.
insert or caps lock, okay, depending on your keyboard orientation. So I'm going to do JAWS key F7. Let me turn on my speech. Oh,
Full speech.
there we go. JAWS key F7.
JAWS Home Annual. JAWS version 2021.2103.174 ILM non-commercial use only. Links list dialog.
There we go. Links list dialog. And now what I can do is I can use, remember, my first letter navigation. What's the link we're looking for? Classwork, right? So I'm going to press C.
C. Classwork. Enter.
And now we've taken this really convoluted process. And if the student knows, oh, I'm looking for the classwork link, open the links list, 1 key command, press C, 2 key commands, press enter, 3 key commands, right? So it's super, super easy. So method 3 is most difficult, but the most powerful, okay? Now, before we move on, I want to tell you guys that you don't necessarily have to use all 3 methods. It depends on where your learner is, right? So a lot of people, when I tell them this, get really overwhelmed because they're like, I don't have time to teach all 3 methods. You don't have to teach all 3 methods, right? If your learner is just beginning, I would probably only teach method 1 and method 2, right? You don't need to teach method 3 unless they're ready. It makes it a lot easier, but you don't have to teach it. So it depends on your learner's needs, okay? What questions do you guys have so far on those building blocks? Okay, well, if you have any questions, let me know. We'll kind of go on to the more exciting part,
Presentation
which
colon
is
base. Slide 6 colon navigation.
when do we use them?
Slide 5 colon but when do we use them?
There we go. All right, I'm going to turn off
Space.
speech.
Speech on demand.
So what we're going to do here is we're going to do another kind of participation activity. We have 3 different mantras, right? Things that we say, rules per se, as far as when do we use each method, all right? And I want to kind of think about each one and have you guys predict which one goes where, okay? So for example, I'm going to take this one example. Use it to skim. If you are going to skim a website, so if my example that I'll give you guys is, I'll make a new tab.
Full speech.
And I'll go to apple.com, right? Because we know a lot of our kids, I'm sure you guys have kids that are really obsessed with technology, and Apple seems to be the one that they go to most often. But if I wanted to skim through this website just to see what's on the homepage, which method would I most likely use? Would I use method 1 where I'm using tab and shift tab? Would I use method 2? Would I use method 3? Remember, I don't know what's on this website, right? Which method would I most likely use? What do you guys think?
Space. Speech on demand.
Method 1.
Method 1 is a good guess,
Full
I'm going to
speech.
show you why not though, right? Because remember, method 1, you're only getting those clickable objects. So if we look at this website, and we have this top bar, we have the iPad Pro, all that stuff. I'm going to show you what it's going to sound like if I try to skim through this method or through this website with method 1.
Complementary region. Exit link. Global navigation region. Mac link. iPad link. iPhone link. Watch link. TV link. Music link. Support link. Search region. Shopping bag button menu.
That part wasn't bad, right? I got all the links on the top menu, but this is where it starts to fall apart.
Main region. Shop online link. Learn more about iPad Pro link.
Oh, that's nice. They usually, websites don't do that.
Order iPad Pro link. One same page link. Learn more about iPhone 12 link. Buy iPhone 12 link. Learn more about iMac link. Order iMac link.
All right. So actually, this is not a great example because Apple made this super accessible. Usually, it would just say learn more, order, learn more, order, learn more, order. And I don't really know what I'm learning more about or ordering about, right? A lot of times, if you want to stay on this page, we want to focus more on those text elements, right? Because those are the ones that are giving us information. If you want to get to a clickable object, it means you're trying to go somewhere. You're trying to do something, right? You're moving off of this page. But if I want to skim this page, I want to focus on our text elements, okay? This is a good guess for sure. Which method would be skimming? Which method would we use for skimming?
Method 3.
Method 3 is a good guess. Method 3 is a good guess. Method 3, so now we know what it is, but method 3, the reason why method 3 is not the best for skimming is because we have to open that whole dialog box of stuff, right? So for example, if I'm like, okay, let me look through the links.
JAWS version 2021. 2. Learn more about iPhone. Buy iPhone 12 Pro. Shop. Learn more about.
Or if I want to open the headings.
There is an open JAWS dialog. Escape.
Open the headings.
Heading list dialog. iPhone 12. Show your Apple TV.
I can kind of go through those, but every time I have to open a new dialog box. So it kind of gets in the way, right? Which method?
Method
one more.
2.
There you go. Method
There
2
you go.
is better to skim through, because really what you're doing is you're using the same thing. I'm just arrowing through my like, say if I want to go through my headings,
Escape.
but I don't have to open a dialog box. I can just press H, right?
iPhone 12 Pro heading level 4. Show your true heading level 4. Apple TV 4K heading level 4.
Right. And let's say
save more with Apple Trade in heading level 4.
Oh, I want to learn more about that. Okay, now let me down arrow key.
Get credit toward a new device when you trade in your current one. Same page link 3. It's easy to do online or in stores.
Do you see how that's a lot more intuitive than going just through the clickable objects, just through, you know what I mean? Does that make sense?
So like with that method, it just, it lets you pretty much, it lets you listen to everything that's on the page.
Exactly. Exactly, pretty much. And you can switch
Pretty much
between them
review
very
everything.
easily. Yeah. And the main thing though, is it does let you view everything, right? Because you don't have those dialog boxes in the way. But the main thing is that you can switch between them very easily. So let's say, okay, I want to learn more about this. Okay, well then, now that I've skimmed, now I know that the next clickable object is probably going to be learn more. Of course, I can see it, so I'm cheating. But I can just press tab.
Learn more about Apple Trade in
All
link.
right, let me learn about it.
Enter.
All right. I've never been on this next page, but I can show you kind of the same idea, right? Is, okay, Apple Trade-in. I still want to skim. I still want to see what is on this unfamiliar page. Probably going to find the heading at the top.
Apple Trade-in heading level 1.
Okay. Want to learn more about that. So let me down arrow.
Heading level 2. Turn the device you have into the one you want. Trade in your eligible device for credit toward your next purchase, or get an Apple gift card you can use anytime. One if your device.
Let's say I'm interested in this. Next clickable object is probably going to be useful.
Main region. Tab. iPhone tab selected.
Okay.
1 of 6.
You see how this is a lot more intuitive, where I can, if I'm skimming, I can switch between headings. I can switch between links. I can switch, I can go back and forth between different elements. So that's why we say use it to skim. It's a really great exploration method. Does that make sense?
So yeah, so Cody, when you switch there, this one seemed to follow from where you left off with your heading. Does it typically do that, or does sometimes if you did that, would it take you to wrap you back up to the top of the page or anything?
Say that one more time. I'm not sure I understand.
Sorry, maybe I'm not sure even I understand.
That's okay.
So you were already had been at the headings about trading in your phone, right?
Yes. Yeah.
So when you were there, then you switched over and to try to get to a link, and it got you to iPhone, which makes sense that was right there.
Right.
But I guess sometimes, and maybe it's because we haven't moved the right way. Sometimes it's like we might click or switch on something and it took us to another part of the page, like maybe back to the top, the first link that you could have gotten to instead of right there. But it could have been how it got navigated to in the first place or something.
So that's another thing. And sometimes it's I see what you mean. So sometimes it's a little glitchy in that way. Do you see my little box around iPhone? And it has like a little red box and it has a little blue box right underneath of that. That's the PC and the JAWS cursor. Most of the time they operate together, right? So most of the time they move together. Sometimes, and you can see this visually, and unfortunately, there's not a great way to figure out when it's happening auditorily. Sometimes it messes up and they split, right? So sometimes that red box, the JAWS cursor, will continue on and the PC cursor won't follow. That's just a glitch issue. What you would do then is just refresh the page and try again, and they should stay together. But yes, what it's supposed to do, what should happen is that your cursor, any method that you use is going to control both cursors. And even if you switch, it should follow to the next thing, right? But that's a great question. That is something that happens not uncommonly. So great question.
So what is the JAWS key command to simply refresh your page?
Good question. It's Control R. So what I would do is I would just do Control R.
Control R. iPhone. iPhone tab selected. Apple.
It should leave me in the same spot.
Complementary region.
But see, it didn't. So now I have to go through again. So
Apple trade in heading. Turn the device you have into the one you want. Main region.
Okay. Does that make sense? That's a really difficult situation when when those cursors split. Usually it's just like, oh God. But the thing that I always tell teachers and students is you can always start again, right? A lot of times we get to this point where we're so frustrated that I'm like, I don't even know where I am. And at that point I would just start again, right? You can always go back to the very beginning. You can always go up to the address bar, go back to the website, start again, because trying to figure out where you are on a web page is a lot harder than starting from the beginning, you know? But that's a great question. Great question. So
space, speech on demand.
Let me go back here. Use it to skim is in method 2. Remember, if you're exploring something that's unfamiliar, method 2 is usually your best bet. Use it to skim. What about when you know exactly what you're looking for? When you know exactly what you're looking for. For example, if I wanted to find the heading on this page, I'm in a Google Classroom right now, right? There's 2 headings under the classwork tab. There's one that says Do Now, and there's one that says Screen Readers. What would I use? What would I use? Which method?
Method 3.
Method 3. Why did you say method 3? Whoever answered.
Because you know exactly like where you're going, like at the Google Classroom, like you know exactly what class you're going to.
Exactly. You know the type of element and you know the name. If you know the type and the name, you should use method 3. I'll give you that. I'll show you how that works.
Full speech.
In this case, I think they took headings off of this. Let me just make sure. Well, we'll see and find out. If it doesn't work, then we'll try something else. So I'll do what is the headings list? What is the what's the key command?
Windows plus F6.
JAWS key plus F6. JAWS key plus F6. Yep. So JAWS key, remember, is caps lock or insert, depending on your cursor on your keyboard layout. It's always insert by default. But we can, if you guys are interested in changing that, we can go over that as well. So I'm going to do JAWS key plus F6.
JAWS version 2021.210.
And I'm looking for the heading Screen Readers. So S.
Screen Readers : 2. Enter. Heading level 2 Screen Readers.
Okay, so that's where I am. Now let's see. It didn't look like that box followed. So let's see if I go down, if it follows.
Link Screen Readers.
Beautiful. Okay, so it did. Okay, so that's when you know exactly what you're looking for, right?
Space, speech on demand.
So let me go back to my Jamboard. And then, of course, when the clickable object is close by, that, of course, is method 1. Notice how I say when the clickable object is close by. Remember that tab only works for clickable objects. The example I have here is if I went to no, I don't like that one. Newsella.com. You guys use Newsella?
Full speech.
In the past. Okay. So a great example of using.
As we head into this new year to see what was working, leaving menus.
A great example.
Press enter.
A great example. My captions were on, so Josh started reading it. A great example of using method 1 correctly is if you get to a website and you want to find.
If I had to describe my.
If you find.
It would probably.
Hold on. Let me turn off captions real quick.
Context menu. To navigate, press up or down arrow.
And I actually don't
New
know
tab
how
control.
to find it.
Leaving menus. Online.
That's okay. If you were trying to find sign in or login, sometimes I would say use method 3, but sometimes it's login, sometimes it's sign in. In this case, it's join now. So sometimes it's really hard to figure out what the website is. So I usually just say tab to it, right? It's a clickable object. We know it's at the top of the page, right? Might as well just tab to it.
Main region. Complement. Join us on menu. Open what content. Open resources. Open company. Open contact. Leaving menus. Join now link.
There it is. Okay. So that's an example of the clickable object being close by. Just tab to it. The other example being
toolbar.
When I was at Apple.
Address and search bar edit. Speech on demand.
when I was at Apple, remember I went down here, right? Save more with Apple Trade-in. I'm like, oh, I know that the next clickable object is going to be important. That's when I switched to tab, right? Because I know the next clickable object is close by, switch to tab, okay? So these are the building blocks. All of what we just covered in the last hour and what we covered in the last session are the building blocks that we're going to use now in the next hour to start to problem solve some of these really weird, maybe inaccessible apps that we have trouble with, right? But knowing all of this, knowing the vocabulary, knowing what each method does, and knowing when to use it is going to be a huge help in developing our navigation sequences, okay? So with that, let's talk about what a navigation sequence is, okay? This is a really structured way to problem solve an app, okay? And you don't have to do it in such a structured way as we're going to do it, but it's kind of a way to start so that you're not just like, oh my God, where do I even start with this inaccessible app? You can say, all right, I know how to make a navigation sequence. I should start there, right? So what is a navigation sequence? It's a series of steps based on the methods of navigation that you can use, that you can build for any app or website, right? So I'll take an example of, you can use this to, I'm going to give you the example of Google Classroom in a second, but I also had a client just recently that worked on website design, and she had to go into WordPress. So if you know anything about WordPress, it's this really complex environment, right? That is on the back end of websites. And she had to go in and edit posts and put things in. And that, when I was teaching her, I taught her the exact same way that I'm teaching you guys. Is we started with those 3 methods, and then the entire length of our training was, okay, she's having trouble with this. Let's build a navigation sequence. So let's build that. You need to do X. Let's build a set of steps that you can use to get there, right? So what's an example? So our example with Google Classroom is, first step is we're going to use method 2 to get to the class heading. I'm going to show you guys this in real time. So what did we do? We used method 2, right? We used H to get to the class heading, right? Next, we're going to use method 3 to get to classwork link, which is what I showed you before, right? We open up that links, or that links list, and we get to our class heading, classwork, right? What's next? Method 2, we get to our section title, all right? So I can use method 2 to get to our section title. You could also use method 3 if you want. So I can use H. My speech is off right now.
Full speech. Do now heading level 2. Screen readers heading level 2.
That's the heading that I want to get to, right?
Space. Speech on demand.
Method 1, get to the assignment name. So I know once I get to the screen readers heading, I can use tab, right? There's my assignment, press enter. And then method 1, view assignment, or you could use method 3 to view assignment, but it's close by. So this is the process that we can go through. Now, this is a very easy example because it's nice and accessible, right? But this is the process that we can go through either in your planning time, or if your student's advanced, to do this with your student, that you can use to start to begin to access some of those harder apps. So what I would like to do here,
full speech.
No, I don't want to do that. I thought it was
speech
off.
on demand.
What I want to do here is I want to do a navigation sequence that you guys say, okay, now we need to build a navigation sequence for something, right? And I want to brainstorm, what could that be? And we have a whole hour to do this, right? So please feel free. We can do more than one, all right? But I want to go through a couple of examples of things that you guys are struggling with. So do you have anything off the top of your head that you want to build a navigation sequence of?
You want to do like a Canvas one, Lindy?
Well, I know, I was just thinking, what came to my mind is navigating just the internet to find quinceanera songs, because that's something my students interested in.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So we can totally do that. And I like, Lindy, that's a nice, easy one to start with. So if we were going to start with Canvas, it would be like, all right, We all have to be in on it. And we can do Canvas in a second. The one thing that I would like to do, and it's really up to you guys, is if we do something like Canvas or we do, like you said, Edpuzzle or something like that, is that somebody's going to have to be brave and share their screen, because I don't have a login of your guys' organization.
Well, and no, I think Lindy's is good too, because even just sometimes just searching the internet,
yes,
when that's something random, like eventually we start to get some sequences for some of the other things, and we're like, okay, now I know what to do. But just randomly looking up things, oh, I want to know about this, or I want to know about that. So that's probably really good. It's just random internet searches would be great.
Yeah, that's something that we should actively teach as well, because it's nice. And honestly, when we do this navigation sequence, you're going to be like, oh, that's not that bad, you know? And it's so useful for every single class, right? In what class are we not using a Google search? Yeah, what were you to say, Lindy?
Oh, I was just going to say, like, you're right, Robin, because Leo navigates from square one to in his class Zoom 100% by himself. So we've got that sequence down. Okay, there's probably some steps we could shorten. Anyways, the internet we don't have down.
Yeah. And when you talk about your student Leo, what app is he using independently, or what program is he using independently?
Just his laptop.
Sorry, when you said he navigates from square one of what, I guess, is my...
Oh, Windows 10 laptop. I mean, what do you mean? I'm sorry. He turns it on.
Yeah.
Lindy, I think he means like he can get onto Canvas to get into his class through Zoom, right? Is that what you mean?
Gotcha.
Through JAWS.
With JAWS, okay.
With JAWS, but on Canvas, right?
On Canvas.
And get to class.
Okay, yeah. Cool. Okay, and that's good. And the thing that is great about that, Lindy, is that if he has that sequence down, what you can do is you can say, all right, we have this one down. Let's label some of these steps. Let's say, oh, this is called method 1, this is called method 2, this is called method 3, or whatever. And then you can take that and transfer it to another thing that he's struggling with, right? This is just like the second step of you getting on Canvas, right? So that's the nice way of, that's the reason why we build those building blocks, so that we can kind of transfer those skills. So, okay, cool. So let's do a Google search. So let me share again. And this is going to be totally up to you guys. So I'm just going to be following your directions. Actually, let's just start from the, I don't want to do anything without your guys' say so that we don't miss anything.
Full speech.
So I'm on my presentation. What would be our first thing that we're going to do?
Well, the first thing he does is he hits the window key, and then he hits G for Google, and then he types in what he wants to type.
Yeah, and it looks kind of like this, right?
Search box edit. G. Enter.
Right?
Who's using Chrome? Who's using Chrome? Rename more actions button. Open i.t.
This is a new Google thing. Have you guys noticed that this happens when you have multiple browsers?
Yes, and it just suddenly started happening, and we got through it.
That's the new. We got through it is a good thing. That's the new, this is a new update from Google that I noticed, and I'm like, oh, this is going to make things harder, right? What would you do here, Lindy? What do you think?
He listens to this one to the word space bar, and then he hits it, and then he clicks, and then but that's how he gets into Canvas. Oh, I'm sorry. He does Windows I or something. We actually haven't done tons
Windows
of this.
I. Settings.
Oh, interesting.
Search box. Find
I didn't know Windows I, so I was like, let me try that. So honestly, if we were to do this method wise, you just clickable. These are all clickable objects. They're all close by because it's a small window. I would just tab.
Rename your profile. More actions button. Open i.2 act. More actions button. Rename your open i.t personal profile button.
That's the one I'm working on right
Enter.
now. I just do that. Pretty easy, I guess, but it is kind of unfortunate that all of a sudden Google updates and then we have this other step. The problem here too, with opening Google every single time, is now
presentation : basic internet navigation.
We have another window open, right? So what I try to tell students is that instead, if you have Google Chrome open already, we would make a new tab. Do we know how to make a new tab? It's Control and T. I think that's in
JAWS cheat sheet dash Google.
I think that's in, yeah, that's in our cheat sheet under tabs. All right. So Control and T would be to make
Presentation
a new tab.
colon.
And I really encourage students to do this because it keeps everybody organized. Instead of having 3 tabs open on one browser and then 3 tabs open in another window, and then your program focus gets messed up, it's just much easier to have one window. So Control T.
Control T.
Or if Google Chrome isn't open, Windows key, Google, right? Cool. What's next if I wanted to do a Google search?
You just types and
Just types.
Yeah.
Just types. Yeah, exactly. And we want to make sure that we know that we're in the address bar. If you're not in the address bar, it's Control L. And that's also in our cheat sheet, Control L. But we're in the address bar. Let's say quinceañera. That's QU, right?
N C I N E R A.
Is that right? And it was songs?
Songs.
Space O G S. Enter.
All right.
Google dot alert. 5 region quinceañera.
This is where we start to get into our methods. This is where we start to really think about stuff. Now, what do you think is the best method to come? This is what we would call is now we're on the search results page, right? It's just a list of websites, list of information that we'll use to answer our question or our query, right? Now, let's think about
speech on demand.
Which method, I'm going to come back to our Jamboard, which method should we use to go through this search results page?
Method 2.
Yeah, Elizabeth, why method 2?
Because it has.
You are absolutely right.
It has too much information, I guess. You just tap until you hear what something that is interested.
Yeah, so we don't really want to tab through everything, right?
Yeah,
it's so much, and we don't know exactly what we're looking for, right? We definitely want to explore. We want to skim. We want to see what is in this page, right? So I always say we use method 2 for a search results page. Okay, so I'm going to come back here, and then the question now is, all right, we know we're going to use method 2. What element type are we going to navigate by? This is kind of a difficult one.
I don't know. U or H. I don't know.
Yeah, so U being unvisited links, that would work. H being headings, that would work as well. I have a question for you guys now. This is why this is a little difficult. Which one do you think is going to be better? As in, which one is going to get us where we need to be faster with less keystrokes?
H.
Why H?
Because you're gonna get the titles.
You're gonna get the titles. If I was gonna do U, this is an activity I do with a lot of students actually, is instead of having this conversation like we are having right now, what I do is I say, let's try it, right? And I do, okay, now we're gonna go by our unvisited links, U, right? What we're gonna get is all videos, shopping, news, images, more, settings, tools, butterfly kisses, right? It's just going to go through everything, right? And I'm going to say, okay, let's count how many times it takes us to get to our first search result, which is all the way down here. It takes it depends on the search, but it takes like 30 or 40 U presses to get to our first search result. If I pressed H, I'll show you that one now.
Full speech. Songs quinceañera heading level 2. Butterfly kisses Bob Carlyle 1995 heading level 3 link.
It goes to the things that we're most interested in. It skips all, it skips videos, it skips shopping, right? So that's why it's important to know that things are headings and they are also links, because if we're not going to do that, let me just do this.
Google link graphic.
If I was not going to do that, I would be like this.
Link videos, link shopping, link news.
It's just a lot more key commands that I don't need, you know? So yeah, H. So let's try H.
Content navigation bar heading level 1.
So let's say we were looking for songs to sing at a quinceañera.
Songs quinceañera heading level 2. Butterfly kisses Bob Carlyle 1995
There's
heading level 3
song,
link.
right?
I hope you dance Lee and Womack 2019 heading level 3 link.
It gives us this sequence of being like, okay, we're going to start with method 2, just one step, but it starts getting us in the direction where we actually get what we came here to get, you know? Let's do one more Google search. I want to do something like probably more academic or a question or a query, something. Here, I'll show you guys something that's
speech on demand.
really fun to do. Is if you wanted to practice this skill with your learner, you look up Google Search Challenge, and it's Google Education. And what you can find is all of these really weird, interesting questions that you can find using a Google search, which is really fun. Except that's not what I wanted. Oh, a Google a Day search challenge. That's what it is. Google a Day challenges. So if I take this one, my route is marked by the shells of scallops, a journey that thousands take each year to a cathedral in my honor, deep in the heart of Galicia. Who am I, right? So it's this really weird question. And you're like, okay, so how do we even start this? Obviously for more high school students. But for example, I would say, okay, I don't even know what Galicia is. So what I would do is I would start a new Google search.
Full speech, Control T.
And I would say, what is Galicia, right?
G-A-L-A-C.
Or I would just say Galicia.
Enter. Google.com/search.
All right. And,
5 regions.
And
Galatia.
what do I do here? Method 2, right? H, headings.
Accessibility links heading level 1. Search modes heading level 1. Did you mean Galicia heading level 3 link?
Sure. Let me go to my next clickable object.
Galicia-Google search. Enter. Galicia.
And let me try it again. H.
H.
Oop.
Press / to jump to escape.
You see how
Virtual PC.
You see how it didn't work for me? And I had to press escape. Kind of something that I just end up doing by like just without thinking about it. But I just wanted to point that out, is that it didn't work. It just said H, didn't move me anywhere. I pressed escape. Now it will work.
Accessibility links heading level 1. Search modes heading level 1. Search results heading level 1. Web results heading level 2. Galicia left paren Spain right paren dash Wikipedia heading level 3 link.
Okay, that sounds like something I'm interested in, right? Enter.
Enter. H.
And then I'm on Wikipedia. What do I do now? What do you think?
22 Galicia.
Think about which method. What am I trying to do?
Method 1.
Method 1. Why method 1?
Because now you're gonna look for the heading.
Remember, heading one, method 1, tab and shift tab does not get us to headings.
Oh no, never mind.
But that was, I'm glad that you said that too, because it's really, that's a concept that is really hard to grasp. Is that, remember, method 1 is like only if you're looking for a link, a button, an edit field, and it's close by. So what will we do?
Would it be method 2?
It would be method 2 again, right? We're doing the same thing. We're still in our exploration phase, right? We're still exploring. We don't know what we're looking for. So what would be the element type that we'd be looking for?
You mean like the shift H?
Yeah, what type of element are we looking for? Are we looking for a link, a button? What do you think? If we're looking just at this article, visually, we can kind of see we want to get to that title, right?
Mm-hmm.
What element would that be?
Heading.
Yeah, heading, absolutely. Remember,
Liz,
titles and section titles.
Liz, you had the heading part. You just had the wrong method number.
Yeah.
I didn't want to say nothing besides.
No. Please.
Oh my God.
Feel free to make mistakes, because every time that we make a mistake, it's another step in the right direction, right?
And I can't download the cheat sheet. That's what I was like, oh my goodness.
Oh, I see. You can't
That's what
download.
I was trying to before I did something.
Gotcha. And honestly, the cheat sheet only is for the key commands. The based on what you're looking for, you can really just look and say, that's a title, a heading. You know, you don't have to look at the cheat sheet for that. But for the cheat sheet, Elizabeth, did you get it, or do you still need help getting it?
No, it's fine.
You got it? Okay. Yeah, so I'm still in my exploration mode. I still want to make sure that I get to the top of the the top of the website. So I'm going to use headings.
To get missing image descriptions, open the context menu. Galicia left, contents heading level 2. To get missing image descriptions, open the context menu.
Apparently that's not a heading. That doesn't make a lot of sense, but.
Contents heading level 2.
All right, that makes sense. So contents, let's see what we can learn about Galicia or whatever I'm on.
Left bracket, hide right bracket. List of 19 items.
Okay, I'm just going to start down arrowing now.
Same page link 1 toponymy. Same page link 2 history. Enter.
History.
Same page link 2 history.
All right. And
22 regions, 65
and
history.
now at this point, because I've gotten to what I needed to get to, I can start down arrowing to read, right? So this is an example of using that navigation sequence to read. Now I'm doing this in real time, right? I'm going through this in real time. But what you can do is you can say to your student, okay, we can start to analyze this. Okay, what we're doing a Google search. What's the first step? Well, we're going to use method 2 to get to the site. What's the next step? Well, you use method 2 to explore the page, right? That's pretty much the navigation sequence of a Google search. Does all of this make sense? Is there any questions on this? Okay, cool. Do we want to do another one? Or I did want to bring something up really quick that might help you guys, but actually, yeah, let me bring that up. So remember when I said switch your program, if something doesn't work, switch your program focus or press escape, both of them, right? And that 80% of the time that should work. I'm going to show you why pressing escape is something that fixes a lot of problems, okay? What I'm going to do is I'm going to start by going to Bookshare. Can you guys direct me as to how to get to Bookshare? What would I do to get to Bookshare? Let's come up with a navigation sequence to get there, just for fun.
Address bar.
Address bar. What's the key command?
Control L.
You got it. Control L.
Control L. Toolbar.
I'm going to
Is
type
Control L a JAWS command, or because that doesn't just work on anybody's computer, right?
It does work on everybody's computer without JAWS. Yeah.
Okay, everybody but mine, because I tried Alt D and Control L and I can't get there.
Really? The one thing that I would try is I would try switching your program focus, because
Okay.
a lot of times what happens is that there's a program in the front, but the computer thinks that there's a program behind that you're trying to focus on. The thing is that we never notice when our program focus is off, because what do? We click around on the screen, right? So if it's off, all we do is click up on the address bar, boom, our program focus is fixed, right? So what I would try is, if it's not working for you, try switching your program focus and try it again.
Okay. Then I started thinking, well, maybe that's just a special JAWS thing. It doesn't work on my computer, you know?
Yeah, no, it definitely works on, it should work on every computer. That's like a Windows command.
Okay, thanks.
So yeah, absolutely. So let me select this again, and I'm going to go to Bookshare.
B-O-O-K. Share.org.
Sounds good.
Enter.
Now,
Bookshare. 7 region. Bookshare.
The question here is, why do we need to press escape if it doesn't work? So I'm going to show you something. What I'm going to do is I'm going to try to get to my edit field. Okay.
Bookshare vertical bar and
to search for something.
Banner region. Navigation region. List. With 1 items.
Login.
Login. Search region.
Did you hear that little blip? What that is JAWS switching between different modes. There's 2 different modes in JAWS. What they say is you're switching in and out of forms mode, but the better way to explain this is that you're switching into forms mode is one mode, and then the other mode being navigation mode, right? Now, why are there 2 different modes? Well, because we have quick keys, right? If I was in navigation mode and I pressed any key on the keyboard, it would use that to navigate around the screen. But now I want to type in something, right? I want to type in, let's say I want to type in the giver, right? I would probably type in T-H-E, right? Notice that it's not navigating me around. It's actually typing in the text field, right? Does that make sense? So let's say that now I want to switch to navigating. What do? I press escape.
Escape.
And do you hear that,
Virtual
that
PC.
little blip again? That is what's happening when something is not working when you're navigating, is that JAWS for some reason switches into the wrong mode, right? It switches into, it thinks you're trying to type something. So if I was, for example, on a Google search.
Lesson plan search education Google.
Sure. on
Quince
Google
songs
search,
dash escape.
and I pressed,
Butterfly kisses Bob. Enter.
oh, let me force it into
Off.
right. Do you hear that little blip? Now, if I try to navigate by heading,
H.
it's not doing anything because it thinks I'm trying to type something. Okay, so what do? I press escape to get into navigation mode.
Escape. H.
Oh, it's because I manually did it.
On. Accessibility links.
Now it'll navigate. Does all of that make sense?
So escape gets you into it.
Into navigation mode?
Yeah.
Yep.
And then to get out of it.
To get into forms mode is enter. Now, a lot of times you'll see
Bookshare vertical bar and
JAWS
accessible online library
is usually really good about getting into forms mode when it needs to, right? So if I press
Bookshare vertical bar and accessible online.
You see how it went right into forms mode, right? The problem is it's not good about getting out of forms mode when it needs to. So if you're ever in the situation, let's say,
navigate, Bookshare,
let's do this another way. Let's say I get to the edit field with E, right? That's the method 2. That's the quick keys way of getting to the edit field.
Search keywords edit.
Notice how you didn't hear that blip, right? So which mode am I in?
You're still in navigation mode.
Still in navigation mode, right? Still in navigation mode. So if I'm like, okay, let me type in the giver.
Wrapping to top.
That's where I'm like, oh, now I have no idea where I am, right? So that's kind of the real nuanced and more advanced technique as to why things don't work is usually 2 reasons. Your program focus is off and you're in the wrong mode, right? If I wanted to now I'm in.
Wrapping to top. Search keywords edit.
Okay, so I know I'm in the search field. If I wanted to get into this field, I just press enter.
Enter. Banner region. Search region.
Okay, now I can start to type.
T-E space I-V-E-R.
Okay. Have you guys ever heard of turning your PC cursor on and off?
Yes, I was going to ask you that, and if you could explain the JAWS virtual cursor and when we need those and when we don't. I know with PowerPoint you have to get out of one and something.
Yeah, this is essentially what that is. Is if I turn my PC cursor on and off, it's essentially switching me back and forth into different modes. For some strange reason, they decided to name that feature turning the virtual PC cursor on. They should have just said switching modes. Right? That's all it is you're switching between navigation and typing pretty much. But yeah, watch, I can turn the PC cursor on and off. It does the same thing.
Off.
And now I can navigate.
H.
Oh,
on.
There we go.
H.
Oh, maybe not.
Escape.
There we go.
Read your way heading level 1.
Let's say I turn it on now.
Off.
Or off.
H.
It doesn't navigate me anymore. It thinks I'm trying to type, right? So that's what that is. Now, the reason why sometimes you have to turn it on and off is because sometimes you need those JAWS navigation commands. So for example, sometimes you need to navigate by heading. Sometimes you need JAWS to control the how you navigate. And sometimes you need JAWS to get out of the way. Okay. So for example, a great example is like Google Drive. So if I went to Google Drive.
Control T. On. D. I. Enter. My drive dash Google Drive dash.
Okay.
Table.
It did it automatically for me, but in Google Drive, Google has its own set of key commands that JAWS has nothing to do with, right? And we need JAWS to get out of the way. So we need that virtual cursor off. We need JAWS out of the way.
Off.
So now I can use my Google commands.
G, N.
Right? If I need JAWS to control the navigation, I need to turn that virtual cursor on. I need to be in navigation mode.
On.
Now I can navigate by heading.
Quick access heading level 2. Wrapping to top.
All right. Does that kind of make sense? Is in navigation mode, JAWS is controlling the navigation. In forms mode, JAWS is out of the way. Does that kind of make sense?
Just pressing escape gets you to navigation mode.
Just pressing escape gets us to navigation mode. Pressing enter on a form field gets us into forms mode. Yeah. Turning on and off the PC cursor does the same thing. It's just a different key command.
So Cody, back to your Bookshare. to get into that little fill-in box or edit
Mhm.
box or whatever, did you press H from
Off.
the
JAWS
beginning, or what'd you do?
on.
I
Accessible
pressed
off.
E for edit field. So if I go back to
On.
my,
JAWS cheat
you'll
sheet
see
dash
that
Google Drive.
if you see next edit box is E. So all you do
Bookshare vertical bar.
is, let's say
Skip to
I'm at the top. All I do is just press the E key.
E. E.
Oh, it's not working. Let me press escape.
Escape.
Now try.
E.
Not press. Okay, let me switch my program focus.
New tab dash Google Chrome. Bookshare vertical bar and accessible online.
Press
Escape.
escape. Let me try E.
E.
Still not working. If this happens, I would just tab once.
Banner region. E.
Still not. Oh, it's because my PC cursor is off. When you turn off your PC cursor, you have to manually turn it back on.
On.
And then you can press E.
Search keywords edit.
Holy moly.
The giver.
I see, and it's times like this when I'm like, yeah, I can see why everybody gets like, it just doesn't work. Yeah, it's because there's a lot of things that you have to think about. Like, and sometimes like that, I'm like, oh, right, duh. But except it's only because I've been doing it for a while that I'm like, oh, right. So that's a good example of troubleshooting. But yeah, it's just E to get to your edit box. So I'll add in those, I would say for troubleshooting, 3 things. First thing is program focus. Second thing is make sure you're in the right mode. And third thing, if you're navigating, make sure your PC cursor is on. Okay. PC cursor is JAWS key plus Z is to turn it on and off. Okay.
Can you say those again?
Yep.
You said this is for program focus. What'd you say?
So the first one is, the first thing to try is switching your program focus, which is Alt and Tab. Remember that's holding down Alt.
New tab dash JAWS home annual magnifier.
And going
Bookshare
through your program focus with Tab. So that's the first thing. The second thing is make sure you're in the right mode.
Oh, right. Okay.
Right. So that's escape to get into navigation, enter to get into forms mode. Right. And then the third thing is the PC cursor. And that key command is JAWS key plus Z. And it sounds like this.
Off, on, off, on.
Right. Okay. So that should answer 80%, 90% of your troubleshooting problems. Okay. Any questions on all of that? Cool. Okay. So we have about 30 more minutes. If you guys want to do another navigation sequence that you guys are struggling with, or another program that you guys are struggling with, or we can ask questions. What would you guys prefer?
Are you guys all good with the even editing in Microsoft Word?
Yeah, do you want to go over that? Yeah, we can do that. That would be easy as well. Up to you all.
Robin, how
Yes,
about when they
on
have
demand.
to, when the girls have to record their voice with AirPod? Like today we had problems, like they have to log out to record their voice because supposedly they can have the program running.
On the Nearpod or on Flipgrid?
No, an earpod or in that ear, yeah.
Nearpod?
Yeah, because normally so supposedly they can record, they have to log out and then record and then log back to that page.
I see.
But they're also on Zoom at the time.
they're
So
also
I
on
think
Zoom.
it might not be letting it do Zoom and I don't know that it's
Nearpod.
letting JAWS and Zoom and Nearpod all run together.
That sounds like that would be the issue.
Oh, okay.
Now, is that something that everybody has to do? Like all of their classmates also have to do that? Or is that something that they have to do, just they're the only ones that have to do that?
No, everyone's in the classroom. What happens is that he gives us like an assignment and then he's like, can you log in 5 minutes? and or 10 minutes,
Yeah.
and they have to record themselves, and then
Yeah.
he gets it through an email, and then they have to log back in and then check it and then log back out. And then it's just like,
I see. That's a lot of things to
programs
do.
going on. Yeah.
Right. A lot of things to do in 5 minutes. Yeah. I would say, and this is something that I struggle with as a TVI as well, is that sometimes teachers don't understand how many things, and just this whole webinar, right, where we're doing 2 hours of building the building blocks of just navigation. Sometimes teachers don't understand how many things the kids have to think about in order to get to whatever, right? And I would say that is more of like, it's a tough spot, because you have to be like, so listen, that they have to do so many different things in those 5 minutes. Like, can we come up with some other type of system, and maybe that's, I don't know. That's kind of a tough spot to be in.
Okay. So do you think because they have like 3 programs running, that's why they can't do it?
That's probably the reason why they can't do it.
Okay.
And I could see that, a sighted user, a sighted student can just like click around and be like, log in, log out, do this, do that, right? But they really have to think about this navigation sequence. That's not something that I would say is feasible in 5 minutes for, how old are they?
They're in high school, like 15.
Yeah, still, I wouldn't expect that a screen reader user can log out, go to a different program, record their voice, log back in. Like that would be really quick, in 5 minutes.
Okay. I just want to believe my girls that they're telling me the truth. Everything.
Yeah.
Oh, it's hard because sometimes it's like today we're like,
yeah,
okay, girls, you're gonna log in 5 minutes. Let me check your voice recording, and then the other one had to log back in, and it's like, okay, there we did it. But okay, so that's because there's 3 programs running.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I would say, yeah. Cool. Do you want to do editing text? Do you want to do another navigation sequence? What do you all think?
Excuse me, just a minute.
Sure. What do you all think? What's kind of on your mind as far as something that would be useful to see?
I'm good with whatever. I think any of it is actually
Yeah.
beneficial.
Okay, cool. What we can do is I can show you editing text for sure. That should be something that we can kind of go over very quickly, and you guys should be able to hopefully wrap your minds around it. So what I'll do is I'll open a document in Microsoft Word. Let me go to file. Let me share my screen just so you can see what I do in this with the key commands.
Full speech.
All right, so let me
Leaving
open
menus.
File
Enter.
Explorer.
Not selected desktop.
What I'll do is I'll navigate by key commands. If you guys find something that I do that you're like, whoa, how did you do that? Feel free to stop me. Okay. So I'm just going to navigate to my tree view.
View modes.
Is tab, right?
Toolbar all look. Search edit. Tree view. Level 0.
And then I'm going to go to documents. I can use first letter navigation here.
D. Downloads left D. Documents left enter.
I can go to tab to my
items view multi-select list box.
Not
selected X B. Books enter. Items.
And I'm going to open up the giver.
T. The giver enter. The giver. Items view multi-select W enter. Word enter.
Okay. Now
the underline giver 00.
We've gotten to a document.
The underline Windows up arrow
with text in it. Okay. Now, what we first want to do is reading commands. Is that something that you guys are familiar with, or would you want me to go over it? Reading commands, just reading text. I'll go over it just to make it easier. So what we'll do is we'll start by explaining reading commands is really interesting because you can explain it in a way that makes a ton of sense, and you can explain it in a way that it's all over the place. So I'm going to try to explain it in a way that makes a ton of sense. So what we're going to do is we're going to start by the smallest unit of text possible. What is the smallest unit of text on any Microsoft Word document? Is it a word? Is it a paragraph? What is it? What's the smallest thing that we could read by?
Letter.
A letter.
A character.
or a character, either one, letter by letter, character by character. So what we would do is we would use the right and left arrow key to do this.
H, T, H, E, space, G, I, V.
Easy, right? Now, the thing about reading commands is if you want to go to the next level, the next highest level, you add control. So what's the next highest unit of text?
Word.
Word. So we add control. We use right and left arrow key.
Blank, Giver, blank, Lois, Lowry, blank, notice.
Right? So we added control. We went to the next highest level, right? What's the next highest level that we can go to?
Sentence.
Sentence. I'm going to say line. All right. We can read by sentence, but I like reading by line because it's a lot easier and it follows this kind of pattern. But for sure, you can say sentence. I like line. The reason I like line is because it's very easy. It's just up and down arrow key.
This accessible media has been made available to people with bona fide disabilities that affect reading. Media with affect reading. This notice tells you about restrictions on the use of.
Now, what's the next highest level of text?
Then would it be sentence or paragraph?
I'm going to say sentence. I don't like sentence because it doesn't follow the pattern. I like patterns and it's just easier, but I can teach you sentence in a second. I'm going to say paragraph. Okay. Now think about the rule that I said. What's the key command to go to the next paragraph?
Control up and down arrow.
You got it. So I'm going to hold down control.
Heading level 2 copyright notice.
Was that Elizabeth that said that?
Julie.
Julie. Oh, okay. I was going to say Elizabeth because I think I got Elizabeth last time with this question, except it was with headings and shift. But yeah, absolutely. Control and up and down arrow key is paragraph.
Title : the giver, author : Lois Lowry.
And then of course we can read all, or I would like to say it's called read all, but I call it read the rest because it's reading from where my cursor is throughout the entire page. And that's JAWS key plus down arrow.
Author : Lois Lowry. Copyright 1993 by Lois blank.
I can obviously press control. So sentence, by the way, is alt plus down arrow key.
Misspelled Bookshare distributes this accessible media under restrictions set forth either in copyright law or in an agreement with.
It's kind of the weird one out. That's why I leave it out. But you can teach it by sentence. But it's nice to say, you say letter by letter, add control for word. Line by line, add control for paragraph. All right. And that's kind of how I think about it. To remember right and left and up and down, I think about, I teach reading Braille, right? If you're reading, going to the next word, which way are you going? You're going to the right. But if you're going to the next line, which way do you go? You're going down, right? Does that make sense? So that's reading.
I'm sorry,
commands.
what was the difference between, I know you're going up and down for the next line, but what's the difference between the line or you're going to the next paragraph?
So the next paragraph is anything, these are the units stop, it controls where JAWS stops, right? So going to the next line, it stops just at the end of the line. Whereas going to the next paragraph, it reads the whole paragraph and stops when whoever wrote this pressed enter, right? Did the return, okay? Does that make sense?
Yes.
Oh, cool. So now that we know reading commands, it's really easy to select, right? And we want to make sure that we select text because then we could do something with it. We could copy it, we could paste, we could make it bold, we can underline it, right? And the way to select is all we do is add shift to our reading commands. So let's say I wanted to select letter by letter. What would be the key command? All you're doing is adding shift. What would be the whole key command?
Shift right arrow.
Shift right arrow. So I'm holding down shift.
Misspelled B. Selected.
And you see how it says misspelled B selected.
O-O-K-S-H-A-R-E. Selected.
Okay. So now if I wanted to make that bold, now I can do my control B for bold, right?
On.
And all it says is on. Now you just add, if I want to select the whole paragraph, shift. And now that it's selected, I just add a paragraph. I can do shift. What would that be the whole key command? Shift what?
Control down arrow.
Yeah, I like how I could hear you. Was that you, Lindy, where you were thinking about it through your head, where you're like, shift control? Yeah. Yeah, that's exactly what you want to be doing. And that's why I teach it like this, so that you don't have to memorize it. You just have to say, okay, right, control down arrow. Okay.
Distributes this accessible media under restrictions set forth either in copy.
Okay. Now I can copy this whole paragraph, right? Control C.
Copied.
And I can paste it somewhere else, right? I can
enter.
Make a new line
Blank.
and make it again. Control V.
Pasted.
Right. Now this is the hard part. I'm going to zoom in just to make sure that we can see the whole thing. I'm cheating.
100% radio button checked.
Because I don't know the key command off the top. I guess I could show you the key command. If you want to do anything in the ribbon, what you do
Base recovery table
is you press Alt.
Edit.
Oh.
Upper ribbon.
Upper ribbon.
Ribbon.
And what you do is you go to the right tab. So I can press right arrow until I hear view, because I know that's where zoom is.
Insert tab. Alt followed by N.
And notice how it gives me the key command.
Design tab. Layout tab. References tab. Mailings tab. Review tab. View tab. Alt followed by W.
So I only have to do it one time. So if I do Alt W.
Alt W.
Whatever. Now I can press tab to go through the ribbon.
View. Print layout button checked. Web layout.
And same thing. I can go all the way over to zoom. I'm just going to skip through this to make it nice and simple.
100% button. Alt followed by W. Q. Zoom ... button. Alt followed by W. Q.
All right. So now I know that to get to zoom is Alt W and then Q.
Q. Leaving menus.
Right.
200% radio.
Somebody do that.
Edit. Paste. Escape.
Just to throw that in.
Edit.
There. So now
Paste
let's get back
table.
to the important part of this. Is that notice that my cursor, right, is reading the next, when it gets to my cursor, it reads the whatever is in front of my cursor. So this is why editing is really kind of challenging with JAWS. If I go word by word, I'm going to do control right arrow.
Distributes.
Notice that it says distributes, right? It doesn't say bookshare. It says distributes. Now let's say I wanted to erase the word this, right? So it says bookshare distributes this accessible media. I want to erase the word this. A lot of students will go here.
This.
Oh, there it is. I'm going to erase it and backspace.
Space. S-E-T-U.
You see that? You see how I'm now not backspacing this, I'm backspacing distributes. Why? Because it says what's in front, not what's behind, right? The way I explain this to students is I say, put your hands on the table, right? Put their hands on the table. And I say, this hand, your left hand, I guess you guys are flipped around, but this hand, your left hand is distributes, and your right hand is this. And imagine your cursor is right in the middle. Now, JAWS says the word that is on the right, not on the left, on the right, right? So which word should it say if you wanted to distribute the word this? Well, you want to go past it, right? So it should say accessible if you want to backspace this. Does that make sense? It's kind of a hard concept to get.
Why do they do that?
I know. Why do they do that? I'm going to tell you. I'll tell you why they do that is for sighted people, right? So sighted people love the backspace because we understand that if you put something here and you want to delete something, you just push it out of the way. You backspace it, right? I'll tell you this, you're like, oh my gosh, how am I going to ever teach this? I'll tell you this, a lot of screen reader users don't use backspace, they use delete. So let me do this again.
U-E-S space.
If I wanted to delete the word this, right? I would use control
accessible
and delete instead of backspace. Okay. So I'll tell you this story. I struggled to teach this for like the first 2 years that I was teaching screen readers. I was teaching full-time technology at Maryland School for the Blind. And I was like, why exactly what you just said? Why did they do this? Like, why is this a thing? Right. And so I went to my colleague who was the Braille instructor and she was a JAWS user. And I was like, Carol, I need your help. What do you do? And she was like, oh, I just use delete. And I'm like, oh, well, that makes sense. Why would I teach them backspace? And the reason I taught them backspace is because we all use backspace, right? But instead, I would suggest using delete. Okay.
So if you got it, I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
Yeah, I would say if you got it right now, which visually we can see the cursor is touching the word accessible.
Yes.
But what word was JAWS going to announce where they are if they were checking where they were?
If they were checking where they were right now, it would say accessible.
Okay, so it would say accessible. We can visually see it's touching the word accessible.
Yep.
So if you press Control Delete, it's going to take away the word accessible.
Yep. So imagine delete as if you say just press delete, it's going to do one character.
C.
Right. So now it's saying
Charlie.
C because it's, you know, touching the letter C. But just like word by word, if you add control, you're going to the next level. So if I add control here and press delete,
media,
it takes away the whole word.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yes.
This is like the key to being able to teach how to edit with JAWS is using delete and not backspace, because it doesn't make any sense when you use backspace, right? It doesn't, it's just like, why would they do that? It's a great question. Yeah. Are there any?
We
Yeah,
use backspace a lot just because he misspelled the word and needs to add a T or whatever.
And that's totally fine. That's totally fine. And I think that's the difference between when you're typing something new and you're like, oh, I messed up that word, backspace makes sense. But if you're going in and you're trying to make an edit, right? Or you're trying to delete a word or delete a character, use the delete, not backspace. Now, some students understand backspace and they use backspace. A lot of times, if, for example, the first 2 years of students that I taught, I'll use backspace. And at this point, they understand it and it's fine, right? But if but it was a struggle is all I'm saying. So if your student is used to backspace, no problems. But if you're having problems with them editing and their document, all of a sudden you go into their document and it's like blown up, I would say that it's probably because they don't understand cursor placement. And the key to that is to use delete and not backspace.
But could you right now, if we wanted to get rid of the word media,
yep.
could we do Control right arrow to select it and then just press backspace on that?
You could also do that. So Control Shift right arrow.
Selected.
Because remember, you add Shift to select it and then backspace. That works.
Oh yeah.
Too. That works too.
Okay.
And a lot of times, I would, especially if you're trying to delete a whole paragraph, that's what I tell my students to do anyways. Select it first. Then, but honestly, if they do under and they say delete,
selected,
it works the same way.
Okay.
Right. So backspace delete in that way works the same way.
Okay. So one of the things that sometimes my students have trouble with, we get stuck in spell check or find and replace. Like we get over there and then we don't get back to our document.
Yeah. So if I did find and replace here, it'd be like Control H.
Control H.
Right. And then let's say I want to find Bookshare.
B-O-R-E.
And remember, right here, we're in a dialog box. Anytime you're in a dialog box, you use tab, right? So tab.
Replace with colon.
Replace with reading
R-A-D-Y-Y-I-G-A-L-L-Y.
And I can say replace all, whatever. I can press tab to go through those options.
More greater button. Replace button. Replace all button. Microsoft Word dialog. All done.
All done.
Find what colon.
Right. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to press escape to get out of this dialog box.
Escape.
And now I should be in the same place that I left. Should be.
Okay. And so the find button, if you're just like looking for a word and you don't want to replace it, but you just want to see it's the same, it should be the same
navigation.
thing.
Yeah, it should be. So this is the hard part about Word. And honestly, most programs, and and let me make sure, because now we're in a territory where I'm like, I don't know if I'm confident in this, but let's say we want to find the word Bookshare.
B-O-K-S-E.
Right. Now.
Previous, next results tab.
What you can do is you can go previous result, next result.
Bookshare, next result button, enter.
Right.
Access, escape.
And then escape, and it should put you there.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yeah. And then how about, could you do spell check really quick?
Yeah, sure. I haven't done spell check in a while, but let's try it.
F7. Editor overview.
Total suggestions is 7, right?
Spelling : not in dictionary. Bookshare : BOOKSHARE.
The same thing is now my focus. The key here is that you want to know where you're focused. Right now I'm focused on the sidebar, right? So what I want to do is
signed a misspell. Read original. Suggestions.
Book share, right? So if I want to do that one, enter.
Spelling : not in dictionary.
And then it goes to the next one. If I want to exit this, I press escape.
Escape.
Oh,
escape.
And that's where we have the problem. So now if you can't escape from the navigation bar or from the sidebar, the important key command to note is F6. Now F6 will rotate through all of the areas of the program that you're in. So for example, in this one, it should, I would say should, because I'm not confident in this. It should go from the sidebar to the ribbon to the main content. Okay, let's see if I'm right.
F6. Spelling : not in dictionary. F6. Status bar toolbar.
Yep, so now I'm in the status bar down at the bottom.
Page F6. Upper ribbon. F6. Document pane.
And now I'm in the document.
Heading level 2.
Okay.
Okay, I think that was our problem. This was pre-pandemic, you know, and I think we used to just get stuck and we couldn't get back. We're like, how do they get back to where they were, back out of there? And that was where we had troubles. So.
Yes, and that's a good pattern to know too. Even if you're on the internet, I'm just reaching for my mouse. Let me keep with key commands.
Word.
Even if you're on the internet, right? Something that happens a ton is that people get stuck up in the toolbar, right? I press Alt by accident. Now you see where I am. I'm up in this little tiny toolbar, this little tiny menu. And if I try to use my methods of navigation, let's say I try to tab, watch.
Back button menu, reload button, view site information, address and search bar, edit, send this, create, book.
I'm just stuck up in this toolbar. How do I get out? Same key command, F6, right?
Okay, so that's going to be very helpful because I think the kids the kids and me, we get stuck sometimes. We're like, well, I can't get out of here.
Yes. Yeah. And that's one of those key commands that it's like, oh, gold, right? There was honestly, same thing. My first year teaching screen readers, this used to happen all the time. And I was like in the middle of class and I'm like, screw it. And just click on the main content. I'm like, you're back. Amazing. But when I learned this, I was like, oh, where has this been all my life? Right.
Yeah.
Because and it's the same thing. If you go to PowerPoint.
Search box, edit, W, enter.
It's the same key command. If I start a new presentation,
ready,
and I want to move from, I don't know what's going on here, but I want to move from the main content to the side, to the film strip, to the slides. It's the same key command, F6, back and forth. So think of F6 as you're moving through the main parts of a program.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Presentation, the underline giver 00.
What other questions do you guys have for me? I know we have about 7 minutes left. What do you guys think?
Context menu.
Oh. Let me see. Cool. Any other questions that you guys have for me, or any other things that you're curious about? Oh, my camera turned off. I'll switch to my worst camera. There we go. My main camera doesn't last 2 hours. Yeah. So what questions do you guys have? Anything else that you're curious about in our last 5 or so minutes? Okay, cool. So what I did want to show you guys, especially with all of those like really random things, is if you guys have Instagram, I don't know if you have Instagram. If you have Instagram, if you follow us on Instagram, let me turn off JAWS so that he's not in the way now. Hold on. Let me share my screen. We're starting to do something called Tech Tip Tuesday. So let me go to my presentation. Nope. Yeah, that's right. Oh gosh, there we go. So I'll go all the way to the bottom. Oh, first of all, I want to show you guys some things that I wanted to show you. Obviously, we have the screen reader curriculum. I'm sure I told you about this last time, but it's really what I taught you guys just now, but in instructional videos with data sheets and quizzes and tests and things like that. If you're interested in that, you go to our website, itvision.com, and there's a student and a teacher version. That's the first thing. The other thing that I wanted to show you guys is we have an upcoming program. It's Summer Screen Reader Boot Camp. It runs August 9th through August 20th. So it's 2 weeks. And it's for students that like really need to learn how to use a screen reader like quickly for the beginning of school year. So if you guys are interested in that for your students, I put the registration down below. It's a $500 fee, but it comes with a copy of the screen reader curriculum, and we're offering a $250 scholarship for students that register. So if that triggers like, oh, that would be great for this student, please feel free to send that on to their families. We're trying to get obviously in front of teachers like we're doing here, but also trying to give parents resources as well, so that they can get involved in learning how to use a screen reader with their child. So that's kind of that I wanted to show you guys. And then of course, Tech Tip Tuesday, I'll show you on Instagram real quick. If you go to, I'm sorry, not itvision.com, Instagram.com. And did I spell that wrong? Instagram.com/itvision, right? That's our profile. Every Tuesday we do a tech tip. So those random things that we were going over, like we did one on the modes of NVDA. We did one on, what else do we do? Getting stuck in the address bar and getting out of it with F6, things like that. If you follow us, every Tuesday we do an IGTV video on one of those really random things that are very useful. So follow us on Instagram for sure. And then in our Facebook group, AT for VI Professionals, we started a question of the week where we put a poll up and we ask a controversial vision question. Like this week it was, let's say you have a student with multiple disabilities. They've taken 3 years to learn the Braille out for the alphabet, but now they finally learned the alphabet. Do you teach them how to use a Braille display, or do you keep them on hard copy Braille? Just to keep get these conversations going. So definitely join us there. And then if you have any questions, of course, email us. I think I showed you this exact same slide last time. So, feel free to keep in touch with us as well. Okay.
When is the boot camp week?
It's August 9th through the 20th. And we know that school starts for a lot of students then, but we are offering evening classes or evening sessions. Maybe not for California.
So I was gonna say, is that live, and what time zone are you on? Yeah,
it's live, but we're creating multiple sessions. So if you it's live, but when you go on to the registration form, at the last question, it says, what's your availability? And what we're trying to do is create sessions that fit people's availability. So we might have a midday session and then an evening session. And then if people do register from California, there's no reason we wouldn't be able to do like a 3 or 4 p.m. session as well, so that we can get kids after school. Yeah.
Okay, yeah, because a lot of the schools are back here that week or the following, because that's a 2-week block for you, right?
It is a 2-week block. Yep.
Yeah.
And I think, and this is kind of, it's the pilot of what we were trying to do. So this was an idea that me and a couple of members of my team had, and we were like, oh, this would be really great. And we're like, let's do it in August. There's a lot of camps in July, right? Why would we do it in July? There's so many camps in July. And then we realized why there's camps in July is because not everybody, it's because everybody goes back to school in August, but it's okay. We're trying to make it so that this year's class sizes are pretty small. So we're going to spread them out a little bit and see how many kids we get. And most likely next year we'll do it in July.
Okay. And is that all JAWS? Are you doing any fusion with any of that, or just JAWS only?
We would do, if we're trying to make it very tailored. So we're still focusing on the screen reader curriculum, but if we get a kid that says we need to use fusion, it's totally fine. Totally fine.
Okay.
Yeah.
I have a student with a recent vision loss that we just this morning had the 2.5-hour IEP.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so we talked about that, and I was thinking, well, for that student, it might be really good because, he's kind of has to learn everything like instantly.
Yeah. That's kind of who we're trying to target, is that if a student has a sudden loss of vision, or for some reason they move into the school district and you guys are like, they don't know anything on screen readers, that we want to catch them during the summer so that their service time is not taken up during the school year while they're trying to do academic assignments. That's kind of the thinking behind the program.
Okay.
So yeah. Cool. What other questions do you guys have for me? All right.
Would you be willing to do a training again for us next year?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Especially this size is always great so that you guys can have questions, and it's so much better than, you know, and not saying, I was going to say so much better than an APH webinar, not anything against APH, but you know, when you have 300 participants, it's really hard to get feedback. So absolutely.
Okay. Well, maybe that we only had one outside person was from the county north of us last time. So this is all teachers and paraprofessionals. And Zeta had to get off. She realized she had an IEP that she thought was tomorrow. It was today.
Happens to all of us. Happens to all of us. Yeah.
But so this is you know, a lot of our group, and so we as a group could meet together and talk about what other things that we think we need training, or let's focus on this. And then also the other thing is, the thought was to possibly bring our students into the picture with you.
I do that as well. I do that as well. And honestly, for if I'm doing direct service with students, I drop my rate quite a bit, because teacher training and student training is very different. And honestly, I like student training a lot more. No, I'm just kidding. Just kidding.
We're like students. We're just old.
No, I know. It's just, but no. So yeah, for sure. I mean, my direct rate is pretty much a direct rate of whatever state you all are in. So yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Great. Well, it's been a pleasure meeting with you guys and hearing your the things that you guys need help on, and hopefully this was somewhat helpful. Yeah.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
Thank you so much.
Absolutely.
Yeah, we really appreciate it.
Very helpful.
Yeah. All right, great. If you do have any questions, feel free to email me. I'm trying to get back to people in a couple of days, even if it's just like, this doesn't work, you know, I can help you through email. But yeah, other than that, you guys have a great rest of your school year, and hopefully we catch up in the fall.
Sounds good. Thank you. Good luck with your summer program.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Bye.